We have a New York Jets insider on the show, break down all we need to know for the Denver Broncos huge matchup going into MetLife. And right off the bat, man, we got to talk about the rumors about the culture in New York right now and the vibes and Aaron Rodgers as the GM and trying to replace Hackett and all that. Like, is the culture struggling, or is the train still on the tracks?
Uh, man, you know what? I don't know, dude. I think that I don't think that the culture's struggling. I think that Aaron Rodgers and his, very unique personality, to say the least, really really likes to stir the national, syndicate, national media a little bit batty and crazy. You know, I think everything is hunky dory inside that locker room. And it is what it is, man. Like, he's an eccentric dude, and he's gonna say things, and he's gonna rub some people the wrong way, and that's kind of what you signed up for when you bring in Aaron Rodgers into the boat. But I don't think whatsoever any of the nonsense that you hear through there's a break in the a rift in the locker room, a divide, a culture, a bad culture. I think it's actually probably to the contrary, and that's not saying as a fan. That's being wholeheartedly honest as what I see and what I feel and what I hear with my ear to the street and what's happening in Forum Park.
Well, it's basically what Aaron Rodgers said on Pat McAfee's show the other day, that he kind of wonders if some of those stories are fed by Hassan Reddick's agent
Yeah.
and the holdout. So what we
We
obviously.
actually, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but
please.
we've been through this, like a couple years ago when Marcus May was up for a contract and he was holding out and so on and so forth. This whole same kind of conundrum, circled back. And listen, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that that the Jets are the benchmark for any sports organization. Like, we've had our troubles, but for some reason the leaks and stuff that come out are always from the outside in, not from the inside out. So this is not uncommon ground, unfortunately.
Well, it's probably the New York media just in general takes
Sure.
one thing and runs with it, where out in the Mountain West we don't have that, So so the Broncos giantly benefited from y'all's gamble on Hassan Reddick in being able to get John Franklin Meyer, and he has just been a standout. So what are all y'all's thoughts on losing John Franklin Meyer? Would you have parted with him had you known that you weren't going to end up with Reddick? Is Reddick definitely not coming this year? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. So, listen, I happen to be a big stan of John JFM. He was, he was very solid. Everything that you want, a quintessential veteran leadership. Very stout against the run for us. Offered enough. Not as offered enough versus a pass. Got home pressure and so on and so forth. Fed very well with the twist and the stunt games that Ulbrich and Salah like to run on our defense. He fit in very well. Unfortunately, the reality is that I don't think the trading or moving on from JFM had anything to do with Hassan Reddick. I really, really don't. I think that he was going to be a cap casualty one way or another. They had an opportunity to, go at him and ask him to restructure or take less or something like that. And they didn't even approach him with that. So to me, I think that they were ready to move on. Whether that's the right decision or wrong decision, listen, I'm not the one cutting the checks. From a fan and from a schematic standpoint, I think the more, the more players that you have that can affect the game in a positive manner, the better you are. So, I was very, very upset to see him leave. And then, the coup de grace is, the guy who's coming in to not necessarily replace him, because I think really Jermaine Johnson was the true replacement for JFM. Unfortunately, you lost him to an Achilles week 2, so he's gone, and not having Reddick in camp. What was a strength going into this offseason very, very quickly became to be a need. And we've gotten some really good production. We've gotten so far an early, season's still early, but we gotten a good second year leap from a first rounder, second year player, Will McDonald. We have a couple of undrafted free agents that have come in and really made their mark, in Braden McGregor out of Michigan. actually a undrafted free agent, and then you brought in old reliable Tack McKinley out of the scrap heap, fourth or fifth team. Produced very well in preseason. You got to take it with a grain of salt, and he's been a serviceable piece of the rotation, which is heavy on the defensive front for the Jets. They like to roll 8 or 9, 10 guys down, out and keep guys fresh. That's just been their MO. Hindsight being 2020, and like I said, taking my fandom out of it, like this team could have really used or really kept JFM, or it really would have been dandy to still have JFM in there.
Oh yeah, we love him, and he's had his son at practices, and has just quickly become a fan favorite. And we just feel like, what, we got him for a 6th-round pick? Like, that feels like highway robbery. So
yeah, it was like I said, it was a salary. It's the unfortunate thing about the salary cap, man. Like
totally,
sometimes good players, and the good thing is that JFM understands it. Like, and you probably heard it in Denver. He said it's a business, man. He gets it. And sometimes business decisions are made. Whether or not it'll come back to bite us in the rear end. At the end of the season, we'll find out.
Yeah, so Sean Payton did go out of his way today to praise your defense and just your ability to like make pressure with only 4, and how rare that is. So what is this defensive scheme like? What are we going to expect? Because we've had, we played week 1 against Mike McDonald with no tape on it, and it was like Bo had no idea where the pressure was coming from.
Yeah.
Week 2, we had TJ Watt, and he was under a lot of pressure. And then, last week we played against a much worse defense. What's your defense really? What's its fastball?
Scheme wise is exactly that. Scheme wise, I mean, historically, not counting this year, but going into this year, historically, the Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich defense has been, heavy, like you said, get home with 4, play 7 back, heavy zone. I mean, we played 83% of the time we were in zone last year. Our minimal blitzing came usually on 3rd and distances. They do a lot. They rely on their guys on the front end to get home. They play their games, they play their stunts, they play their twists, but you're usually not bringing extra guys. And to do that, you have to rely. If you're going to rely on just getting home with 4, as much as the Jets have in the past, you have to be secure in the back end. And I think that's where the Jets have really, over the past couple of years, really stood out. Is the defensive backs have been really good. They are, again, it's zone based, but they are making sure that they're giving that extra second for the defensive line to get home, so on and so forth. This year has been a little bit of an anomaly. I think last week, playing a banged up New England team, they blitzed 40% of the time, which is and they played man coverage over 50% of the time, which was a very, very Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich led defense doing. Playing with a base nickel like we do, you have a tendency to kind of be a little bit, a little bit light in the box, a little bit soft up front. And last week they, and the first 2 weeks playing San Francisco and Tennessee, where San Francisco ran for, almost 180 yards. It was ugly. And then Tennessee, they ran for 88, 30 of which was one, broken play scramble by Levis. Yeah. So they held, they kind of solidified it, but last week they really changed things up. Like I said, played a little bit more base. They brought in the 3rd linebacker on the field a lot more, cleaned up a lot of and it helped clean up the stuff that they were getting gashed inside. And they were still able to, like I said, they confused Jacoby Brissett and ultimately Drake May when he came in by the creeper pressures and all the stuff that they haven't put on film for 2-3 years under this regime. So it was a nice change up to see. I would bet to see, some of the same. I'd probably say you're going to go back and go back to see more of the, cover 4 quarter zone that the Jets kind of love. And they're going to force, they're going to force Bo Nix to beat them. That's probably going to be their game plan is put the ball in his hands, make him make decisions, and hope that he makes the wrong decisions once or twice here or there.
So settle the score. I know it's a cold hard fact that Pat Surtain is a better cornerback than Sauce Gardner, and you agree, correct?
You disagree.
Oh, come on.
I listen. Flowers to Surtain. I mean, he's phenomenal. And flowers to Sauce because he's very, he's as phenomenal. I these arguments that go back and forth, man. They're kind of silly. I would be happy to have either of them on my team. I think that's fair to say.
Agree with
They
that.
have
For sure.
they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses. I think it's gonna be, and I don't know, and this is a question I'm gonna pose to you. In watching some of the film that I have in Denver, I haven't seen Patrick Surtain travel with the wide receiver one. Is that that he stays and plays aside?
So he done a little of both. And so
Yeah.
you saw him game 1 against Metcalf travel with him, held him under 20 yards. Game
Uh huh.
2 against Pickens, he kind of had his spots. And then last week he was with Mike Evans most of the time. Same thing. I think only one catch was allowed in 32 snaps for
Yeah.
Surtain. So like he is, man, I
Yeah.
think year 2 of Vance Joseph system, we gave him the bag and we're crazy hyped about him, man.
Yeah, yeah, as you
Absolutely.
should be. I mean,
Yeah.
he's super talented. I mean, he's right up there in in the names that you talk about as one of the top DBs in the league. And I'm going to assume that you'll probably see him traveling a lot more with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has seen it all year long. Like he had Ladarius Sneed in Tennessee, Javius Ward in San Francisco, who travel with him a lot. The difference that we have this year than in years past is old man Jenkins at the helm has been able to kind of pick and choose his spots. We've seen Garrett Wilson has seen a lot of bracketed coverage, a lot of high low. Their teams are scheming to take him out, and Rodgers has been spreading the ball around and finding the mismatch and finding the open man. So
Well, yeah, let's hop over to that side of the ball.
sure.
What percentage of Aaron Rodgers, like I think he is probably the most talented quarterback in the history of football. Like he doesn't have the wins as of Brady, but he was Mahomes before Mahomes. So what percentage
Yeah.
of prime Aaron Rodgers do you think you're getting off an Achilles injury, several ayahuasca trips, darkness retreats, and 40 years old?
Well, I think that I'm not necessarily concerned. The Achilles, the recovery from the Achilles has been good. Like he's actually looked pretty mobile. I think it's the 40 years old that is more more coming into play. Listen, he still has the arm talent. He still has a very keen understanding of how to read defenses and how to how to key off and go to hot receivers and change things up. Like that hasn't changed. I just think that we don't see the 30-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So if I had to say, you probably got about 75-80% of them. And reality is that's probably the best quarterbacking that we've had, tenfold in the past 14 years since we've made the playoffs.
So 75% Aaron Rodgers or 100% Bo Nix, what would you take?
Right now I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. Come on, man. Come on. Listen, I'm a big fan.
This quiz.
I'm a big fan. As I told you off air, I'm pretty in tune and I do some independent scouting, and I really like Bo Nix coming out of college. I thought there was limitations, and he's young, and he's a young NFL quarterback, so there's going to be growing pains. But I like the direction of his skill set in Sean Payton's offense. You know what I mean? I don't think that if there was a perfect match that you can make between this rookie quarterback crop that came out and a head coach, I don't think anyone could argue that this probably isn't a match made in heaven.
Oh, and I think we finally saw what Sean wants it to be. Like in that game against Tampa, he was set to throw the ball 50 times, but we were up so big in the fourth quarter, we just handed it off. But he 38 throws in the third quarter, and it was just the 4-yard kill you to death where he didn't get sacked a single time. And so that has us just super hyped for the future. And if he can just take incremental steps and our defense keeps playing like it is, I think we'll be in every game.
Yeah.
So you got, obviously, you got Brees, who's like unreal, dude. And that's, I think what scares me the most is I feel good that we'll pressure Rodgers and we'll make him get rid of the ball fast, but we haven't been stout against the run. That's kind of been our Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
and then you got this other cat coming on, almost like a two-headed monster. So talk to me
Yeah,
about
Braylon.
the running game.
Yeah, the running game's very, very dynamic this year. Obviously, Breece Hall is he's a really good player.
Mm,
And again, it's not just saying that as a Jet fan. Like, he's one of the few true three down backs that you have in there. Like, and when I say three down back, it's not only that he can affect the game, obviously on the ground, which he's very good, vision, contact balance, all that stuff that he does, rushing the ball. He's a threat as a receiver, but
mhm,
even more so, I think the thing that goes underrated about the Jets' entire backfield, as a matter of fact, and even I'll shoot some kudos to Javonte as well, is how effective he is in pass pro.
mm,
So Breece Hall is, and it's funny, the Jets kind of changed and switch a lot of their install and their offensive philosophy this year. They went and they signed in free agency. Obviously they brought in free agency. They got a new left side of the offensive line, Tyron Smith and John Simpson. We have our second year center in Joe Tippmann, Elijah Vera Tucker, our right guards coming off of injury, which he always gets injured against Denver. Knock on wood. Let's break that habit here. And then they made a trade for Morgan Moses. So with Tyron Smith and John Simpson and Morgan Moses, the idea was that they were going to be more of a power heavy team, and away from the outside zone stuff that they have run for a couple years. And then they go and draft Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, young buck, 20 years old, 240 pounds, just like a steamroller.
mm,
And it makes them very dynamic because both of them are able to affect the game on the ground and in the air with their hands. But they have different styles. So when they want to go power, gap, duo, and stuff like that, you can grind with
mm,
Braylon Allen, who just bowls over guys. And then they can Breece opens up a lot of the screen game, and if they want to run inside or outside zone, which the inside of our offensive line blocks very, very well. They're capable of doing that. So I think the addition of the young cat gives Breece Hall, kind of saves him a little bit. He doesn't
mm,
have to be on the field all the time. And you don't lose a lot of production when the young kid's in there, but it also opens up a completely different mindset in what this offense could be. So, there's been times where, we're in heavy, we're in 12 or 13 personnel, and we're just, we're saying, hey, we're going right over you, right guard, and they just boom, power with the young kid. And then you put Breece in there and they have the same formation, and you pull out and you roll out and play action, and then you dump it off, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot more dynamic, some more dynamic flow to the offense than in years past. Again, a lot of that has to do with Rodgers being at the helm, and a lot of that has to do about healthy. I mean, the Jets' offensive line has been wonderful this year.
yeah.
Very, 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 very stout against the pass. The interior, especially. It's funny, Tyron Smith, biggest name, probably the best, well-renowned offensive lineman we have. He's, leads the league. He leads our team so far, starting five, in the amount of pressures allowed, and so on
Mm,
and so forth. So, listen, it'll be interesting because I know, you guys got at it at Tampa Bay. I mean, with 7 or 8 sacks last week.
yep.
So,
Totally, man. I think that 1-2 punch, the Broncos were kind of hoping to have that in drafting Audric Estime, and he had
yeah,
a ankle
and
injury
ankle,
first
right?
game.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure. Did I read y'all are down your starting right tackle this week though?
Yeah, Morgan Moses has a bone bruise. They feared worse. He's got a bone bruise. And he's not going to play this week. He's probably not going to travel with us to
Mm,
Minnesota. I mean, across the pond to London next week. And he'll be back for the Monday night game against Buffalo.
mm,
But yes, Olufashinu, our first round draft pick, 11th overall, it has stepped in and is going to be in at right tackle. And the limited snaps, again, he only got a quarter's worth of film, in real time this last game. Looked very good. Looked the part of every bit of the part that he was. Many had him as one of the top 3 or 4 offensive tackles in the
yeah.
class. First experience at right tackle since high school. But listen, I mean, it showed off very well. He was pretty dominant against the run. Got caught and let up a pressure on one pass, but you're not going to win every rep. So I think most Jets fans and people involved in the team are very confident that the drop off from Morgan Moses to Olufashinu is not going to be terrible, especially in the run game. You know, the pass game is going to be, it's going to be hit or miss because it's the first time out on the right side since he was 16 years old.
Oh man. Well, so I guess that could be a hope for us for sure. I don't know if you heard Alex Singleton, who
Yes,
led our
I
team in
read that.
tackles, dude. Oh,
Yeah,
sucks, man.
I did read something else which I thought was astounding is that it happened early in the game and he played the entire game
Yes,
with
it
the torn
happened on
ACL.
snap 6, and he still had 10 tackles, and who does that on a torn ACL? And it just
Yeah,
showed like, Sean Payton, you were talking about leaks and stuff like that in the Jets, like, we didn't hear about it until today, and it came like, the whole team knew about it Sunday night, so Sean does have this thing on lock, so I think I'm worried about tight end, like, I don't even know who are your tight ends, how has Rodgers used them? I know you have great receivers, great running backs, what's the tight
yes.
end situation?
So the tight end situation, you have we have two that obviously play. They play a lot of 12 personnel. Tyler Conklin's the first tight end. Much more of your receiving threat. Although he's not bad in line, he plays a lot in line and he's a good blocker. But he of the two, he's much more of your receiving threat. Last week he was 5 for 95. Good outlet. New England lined up a bunch of cover too, and that's just a tight end dream to get up the seam and make those passes, be those outlets. And then you have Jeremy Ruckert, who's in his third year, third round pick out of Ohio State, much more of your inline blocking guy. He does a lot of the stuff, where he'll go into line up as fullback or H back and lead the blocks on those power duos and stuff like that. Still a threat in the past, but not much of one. Neither of them. Listen, neither of them are Kyle Pitts esque receivers or fleet of foot like that. They're very good third or fourth options. And that's exactly how Rodgers uses them.
Yeah.
Who is the backup for who? I mean, I know they signed Quan, but he's not going to play. He's not going to be active Sunday, I'm assuming. But
yeah, so I mean, we have this cat who had an amazing preseason, Justin Stranad, and then we have you could always move Cody Barton there, but that already was our weakness going into this season. We had Josie Jewell for a bunch of years, and they were a great tandem. We had this Jonas Griffith guy, and he got ACL injury as well. So I'm truly terrified about that. I think long term, I'm not as terrified as I am. Like, you get 3 days to prep for Aaron Rodgers, who's the smartest quarterback, so that part worries me. It makes me feel better that you don't have a Brock Bowers or anything we gotta necessarily match up there, but there's so much more that he had the green dot on his helmet, like that. It's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Anytime you lose a starter. And listen, we might be without our starting middle linebacker as well. CJ Mosley didn't play last game. Has been battling turf toe. Coming off of a short week. Everyone knew that Thursday was going to be wash. And now that he's had some rest, yesterday was the first day of practice. He was limited. Today he didn't practice. So the good thing is that we're very comfortable at with Jamie Sherwood, who's his direct backup, and has played a lot when he got hurt, and obviously all of last game. And I think he led the team with 12 tackles, all over the place. Different style of linebacker. CJ Mosley is your true, old school. You think of those big, rugged. I'm going to take on every block.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to take on those blockers and knock them out. That's not Sherwood. Sherwood sideline to sideline kind of speed, kind of guy. So, listen, it looks like we're both going to be down a couple starters. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, had you ever thought like Aaron Rodgers Achilles, turf toe, like maybe get actual grass there? Cause it seems like you're playing on concrete or something there. It's
Listen,
man.
It's always been synonymous for, listen, you really need a hard base layer of cement where Jimmy Hoffa's buried. Cause that's the old school floor. So,
I love it, man. Anything Sean Payton was kind of lambasted in national media for throwing Nathaniel Hackett under the bus and saying it was the worst coaching performance in the history of the NFL. And then the Jets rallied and beat us at home last year. And then any talk about winning this one for Hackett, or is that narrative?
No, I think I think that narrative has been, long dead. And listen, I'm a realist, and although maybe it was something that shouldn't have been said to the media, I don't think that Sean Payton was all that off.
No.
Hackett was, left to our third, backup and ultimately third and ultimately fourth string quarterback with a rotation that had, we played 17 different offensive linemen last year. So a lot of that factored in, but I mean, the offense was just an absolute dud last year. So you're not going to find many Nathaniel Hackett fans over here in New Jersey or New York. And we know that, a lot of what, his scheme that's implemented gets to be kind of tweaked at the line based on what, what 8 sees, so on and so forth. So that's always a sigh of relief, having somebody in there, like you said, a super smart, competent quarterback that can kind of change and overrule some of the stuff that last year Hackett would just, kind of throw up on the field.
Yeah, totally, man. And I think I even heard I think it was Chris Collinsworth talking about that like Rodgers loves to actually prove Hackett right by like taking it and molding it at the line to, and there's that art to it. You have to play call, and then how do you improvise on it and actually make it work? So
yeah,
definitely one of
he's
the
very
best
good
guys
at that. I mean,
totally
he's been good at that his whole career, and that part of his game I don't think has diminished for sure. Yeah.
All right, so Zach Wilson's return to MetLife. How will Jets fans react when he's in the victory formation, kneeling the ball to defeat you guys because we're up 3 scores? Just give me some
Oh
thoughts on
man,
that.
listen, if that's the case, my guy, I don't think there's going to be many Jets fans in the stadium to watch it happen. No, listen, I'll say this. I was a big fan, big advocate of Zach Wilson. My kid still has his jersey on his
Yeah.
wall. It's a shame it didn't work out. I think he's talented. It just, sometimes there has to be a split and let that happen elsewhere. Like he wasn't, he was kind of dealt the raw hand.
Mm.
And then, there was also times where he didn't step up to the plate. Like listen, that whole COVID year draft class kind of thing is kind of screwy.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna expect Zach Wilson suited. He hasn't dressed yet, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
So
he has not. But
yeah,
yeah, he was a camp darling, man, and I definitely think he'll get another run, and I think it's not gonna be in Denver, but
yeah, he'll
yeah,
get a chance. He'll get a
great
chance
dude.
because he's talented.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I
he's a
mean?
great guy. Like
Yeah.
the teammates love him and all that. So, all right, we'll let you run on this. What is your final score prediction for Sunday at 11?
Sunday at 1.
Well, it's 11 Mountain
I
Time,
know. I'm
actual
teasing.
time. Okay.
Listen. I think that I'm going to say the Jets continue their winning streak. I think they come home and beat Denver. I think it's closer than most people, most Jets fans are thinking. I think that the Jets kind of quiet Bo Nix. I think they limit the amount of I think if they can keep him in the pocket and keep him mobilized, or don't let him get mobile, I should say. I think it's going to be I think the defense is going to make it tough. I don't expect there to be tons of fireworks and tons of points on our end. I'm expecting a low scoring affair where the Jets win 21-12.
All right, my prediction. I'm going on your show tomorrow night,
Yes,
and I
sir.
can't wait, man. I'm saying 24-21 Broncos win because I don't know if you've heard, we are bunkered down. We went to West Virginia and we're just paintballing and horseback riding, and the vibes are good, man. And I just think this team Bo leaves, but the schedule gods did us no favors. Jets 10 days rest. It's going to be tough. So
Yeah. You know what? And I'll tell you this from New Jersey here. I don't think there was a Jets fan in the world that wasn't rooting for you against Tampa Bay because we didn't want to come in and feel like it was that trap game. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think Denver's a lot more talented than people are giving them credit for here on the East Coast. I think the defense is legit. And listen, you have a young quarterback. You're gonna have ups and downs and bumps in the road, but I think you guys are gonna be in a lot of games, and I think you're gonna be in this one. I think it's gonna be a good battle. Hopefully the green and white prevail.
Nice, man. Well, my expectation of a Jets fan and reporter, and you couldn't be more different. You were very kind. Appreciate it. Where can our viewers go to watch more and interact with your stuff?
Yeah, guys, I have a show on the Talking Jets network. We meet Monday nights live on YouTube. The Talking Jets, 8 o'clock, and on Thursdays is our other show, Thursday Thick of It. There's usually 3 of us on the show. Tomorrow will only be 2 with our special guest breaking down Denver here. You can also find I have another YouTube channel which solely I just pump out draft related content, which is year round for me, and that's Project Prospect with Dom C. I'm also very active on Twitter at DC_NY Jets. Feel free to stop by, say hello, drop a like, drop a follow, do all that good stuff, man.
Sweet, man. Well, I'll link it all underneath in the show description, but thank you so much, man. And we will talk after Sunday.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate the time.